good evening. It is 25 minutes to 6 on Thursday evening. And today I started working on my book, which is, I'm going to let it speak for myself, but basically I'm going to read out the first chapter today. It's called Quadchromatic, which is the ability to have 4 colour receptors instead of just having 3, because humans only have 3 normally. Okay, here we go. Aside from the goudy fruit and dulling wrinkled tomatoes with skin akin to the elderly patients slipping through the sands of time on the ward, Elspeth White was the only thing resembling colour in the room. The curtains which hung painfully straight from the tiled ceiling were white. The hospital-cornered sheets were white, the drifting clouds sheathing the sun white. Blankness draped the room like a bleak winter, even down to the Roberts radio streaming the white noise from its worn knobs. Yet Elspeth was refreshingly pink. Pinched cheeks like fertile tulips lit her bare face, and that warm, sensuous glow, like she'd been for a brisk walk on the fells, indicated perfect health. Graham loosened his tie and began plumping pillows. He figured he might as well make himself useful since he was here for the long haul. Her comfort came before his frustrations. Nurses fussed and faffed, and the sound of ambulances echoed down the eerie corridors that had witnessed life and death ebb and flow out with the passing of time. As their eyes froze on each other, their expressions mirrored: fear, hope, optimism, anticipation, all the emotions you'd expect from first-time parents mixed together like some elaborate recipe of life. The heady 9 months seemed a blur now, the tortoise-slow progress of that blossoming bump fast-forwarded at rapid pace. Elspeth pulled Graham in close. "Are you sure there's no chance?" His face answered, but words further confirmed. "Don't worry, there were complications with old George. She'll be fine." They'd been expecting a girl for some time now. The thought of missing out on first ballet lessons and plaiting long virgin hair was something Elspeth had always longed for. She crossed her fingers beneath the sheets. Of course she believed her husband that their child would not inherit Graham's father's rare condition of colour blindness. George White was unfortunate, to say the least. The grass would never be greener on the other side for him, since he had been born bereft of any colour receptors in his retinas. Life for him was black and white, plain and simple, an animated sequence of muted negatives. George was a positive old soul, though, a real glass-half-full kind of man. What he lacked in colour sense and common sense, he made up for in humour. Who am I to argue? They tell me the sky is blue, so the sky is blue. Although Elspeth always admired George for calling a spade, and if we're talking playing cards, they are black and white, after all. To burden her daughter with this deformity was out of the question. Her breathing was getting heavy and erratic now. Tiny beads of sweat rolled from her temples, some gathering in the curve of her ear, others following the jawline. Clenching her fists and grimacing, she howled in agony. Graham clutched at a wet flannel and lightly dabbed her down. He figured he might as well make himself useful, as he was here for the long haul. The rhythmic bongs of the cardiogram broke the silence as lines went racing from one end of the screen to the other, peaking then falling like steep mountain ranges. Stethoscopes sparkled under the harsh strip lights as the scent of tea trolleys wafted through the room like an unwelcome ghost. Appetite was the last thing on anyone's mind as the glistening child arrived, spattered in blood and mucus, wailing like some uncontrollable parrot. In an instant it was cleaned up, swathed in pastel blankets and swaying gently in its mother's arms. It was idyllic, almost too idyllic. The content nurses filed out of the room, nostalgic and raucous, leaving the room to the elated couple. Time stood still. Names were discussed and an old man wheeled himself past in a navy robe. Blinding streetlight crept through the curtain cracks as a slick weather forecaster on the raised TV set gleamed at a rainbow that had been blown up screen size, sent in from someone who'd captured it on their mobile on the motorway. After only a few sips of cheap grey machine coffee, the nurses rushed back in like a feverish gale. A whirl of embroidered badges and transparent tights flashed before their 4 eyes as the unnamed child was whisked away. Kicking off the sheets in a flurry of panic, Elspeth struggled to comprehend the once content nurses. Graham intervened, holding her by her dainty wrists, and in a relaxed, calm manner, he reassured her that their child would be back safe and soon, just as he had reassured her about old George. Ta-da! And that is the first paragraph, and that took me all day. Chapter, and that took me all day. I did go to the library to try and get a book out on rainbows, but they didn't have any books on rainbows, so I was at a bit of a loss there. But yes, that is chapter 1. I will read chapter 2 as and when it creates itself, so when I get around to it. So yes, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will have chapter 2 soon.